You're listening to the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman, episode 180. On today's podcast, we are joined by the multi-talented, the multi-talented and basically amazing Amanda Marshall, who you may know better as Three Donkeys or the lady that can train pigs. You've got lots of strings to your bow, haven't you?
A few. Not saying I'm very good at any of them, but I've got a few.
Oh, we're not having that. We're not having that at all here. So tell us about you before we get on to your businesses.
Okay, it's not really a huge amount to tell. I live on a small holding in the heart of Devon, just outside Dartmoor National Park, really. And it is a beautiful part of the world. I am now closer to the half century than I was a couple of months ago, which is very unfortunate. I got 5 children, ranging from 7-year-old twins who are Ben and Toby, and then I got Bertie, who is 14, so she's now in her last years at school. Philippa, who's 17, nearly 18, who people will see all across everything with. She's my general go-to model and long-suffering daughter for her. And then I have the eldest one, Kieran, who is currently studying physics at Exeter University.
You have got a lot of children.
I have, but there we are.
And you've got the built-in model, who is lovely.
I mean, they have their bonuses. They do have their uses. I mean, Pippa, obviously, she's my go-to with everything. The boys, I rope them in to help pack stuff. Kieran will always help me pack stuff when he's around, although that's not as much now he's moved out. And Bertie, she's just brilliant, and I get them to help with everything as well, so it works really well.
And I do love the content you put out, particularly around the boys. Didn't they go to someone's wedding dressed as a dinosaur?
Yes, yeah, that was their dad's sister's, in effect my sister-in-law last year. They got married, and because of COVID, everything was put off 3 times, so they arranged it. It's one of these, well, let's just go ahead and do it, and they arranged it, I think, in about 6 days in the end.
Wow. And
Celia said to the boys, you wear whatever you want, it's just a free-for-all. There was dogs there was everything. So giving a 7-year-old a choice of what to wear for a wedding is always going to be slightly unique. So Toby went as Captain America and Ben went as a T-Rex. And I think it's probably the only time in the history of Northloo Church where they had an inflatable dinosaur sat at a wedding. And even more so that I had to inflate him in the church.
Oh God, I love you.
Because he couldn't sit down with his inflated suit on, so we had to deflate him for the thing. And then so it's all very lovely, and then you've suddenly got this dinosaur inflating sat in a pew.
I love it because obviously my boys are slightly younger than yours, and I know that we do have regular twin chats, and you're just a bit ahead of me in terms of their age. So you say, oh, you watch out for this, and damn me, it always happens. Like, oh great, this has happened now.
Yeah. It is. I love being a mum of twins, but I do think it is rather like being stuck in a washing cycle. You get one through something and then the other one straight into it. So it's a bit like Groundhog Day, constantly on repeat and on steroids.
Oh, they are good fun though. I mean, the boys are hilarious. Whether they think they are or not, they make me chuckle. So when you say you've got a small holding, what animals have you got?
So we've got obviously 3 donkeys. I would be, they're like,
talk about those, definitely.
And then I've got my cob mare, the boy Shetland. Then we've got some pigs, goats, alpacas, sheep, chickens, and then a small herd of cattle. We're up to 10 now.
Oh wow, because we've seen lots of these on your social as well. I know we saw the cow and they had to have bells on. That really cool.
Yes, that was Daisy, our blind cow we had at the time when she had Moose, the calf, so she knew where he was.
You train the pigs to sit?
It was very much like ski Sunday for a while.
Oh, bless them. And you had the pigs that you trained to sit during, that was the first lockdown, wasn't it? You did pig training.
Yes, my pig training was the first lockdown. We haven't done too much on that lately, but they've literally last weekend was they came in for the first time this winter, because we have so much rain in this part of Devon that the ground just gets so wet. It gets to a point where you just have to bring everything in.
Yeah.
And last weekend was that moment, so that's now Christmas time for the animals, and winter started, unfortunately.
So tell us about the Three Donkeys, because that's the whole name of your brand. And
Yeah.
I know you sometimes, particularly when you first started up, some people got a bit confused between you and like a donkey sanctuary, didn't they? So talk to us about the donkeys and why you have used them as a name of your brand.
Okay, so in a nutshell, we had two donkeys, Teabag and Woolly, who, if you see us on a social, Woolly is the poitou with the huge ears, and Teabag's the sort of standard donkey. So we had those, and then we had Kevin, the male donkey, come on holiday for a few weeks to see if if him and Woolly would get friendly, to put it nicely. That didn't work, so we ended up with a donkey foal from a donkey, but from the wrong one, because Teabag wasn't quite so fussy. And that's how we end up with three donkeys, and we have now Teabag, Woolly and Dave. And when I was trying to think of a name for the business, and indeed a name for our coveralls, I didn't want anything sort of cliched or twee, or something that was, well, a bit rubbish. So we thought, well, let's see what else we can come up with. And a friend of mine who helped, Angela, she helped me throughout everything. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have even got the design on paper. So she saw a picture I'd put on my personal Facebook with my donkeys doing their usual thing and running in the opposite direction to where I wanted them. And she just said, why don't you call it Three Donkeys? Because obviously there's the family side, because we're a family business and they're like a little family unit themselves, and also donkeys are hard working, so and coveralls are as well. No,
I like that.
And it also made it so we could build a brand rather than just a product. And that's what we're trying to do. The core business obviously is still the coveralls, overalls, boiler suits, whatever people know them as, but as a brand, we're sort of able to move in. We're not contained quite so much.
No, that makes perfect sense. So tell us about what gave you the idea for your coveralls, because your coveralls are different to anything else out there. Tell us where that idea started and how that developed.
It started quite a long time ago when Bertie, my daughter, was born, and at the time I used to breed Shetland sheep. I had a flock of about 40 Shetlands. She was born in April, and literally, I had her, came home from the hospital, and was back out doing the sheep the next day. And I live in coveralls through the winter, and especially when we were lambing, because there's nothing worse than having to get changed multiple times during the day, or ending up with inside of animals all over your clothes.
Nice.
And then having to go and do the school runs, or even going to the shops.
Oh God, no, that would be really great.
And also, it has been known, and also, being female, it's you do need the obligatory wee stop. And when you've got coveralls, you either have to struggle your shoulders out of them, or and then it's what to do with all the fabric that's then built up around your knees. And or you end up having to go for ones that are so big, because they're not exactly fitted to women's chests, particularly, especially the sort of more standard ones are designed for men. And there are a lot more women's versions of the all-in-one out there now, which is great, because at least it's focusing on the female form, but they're still an absolute pain to get out of.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find anything else. I couldn't find anything, I came up with an idea. I thought, this is what I want to do. Couldn't find anything out there. But hey ho, life gets in the way after a while, and I'm not a creative person by any stretch of the imagination. I can't draw for toffee. What I have in my head, I can't then convey very easily onto paper. So it sort of got put on the back burner and sort of just sat there, and I'd keep sort of coming back to it thinking I ought to do something with it, but I could never get the idea from my head onto paper. So we sort of fast forward 10 years, sort of 9.5, 10 years, and I was at that time had liveries up at our place, because we've got quite a few stables, so I was able to run a few liveries. And one of the mums that came up, she's we were just chatting, and she said, you know what, I'm fed up of going home smelling like a stable. And there is nothing for women that's nice, and I don't want to wear men's ones, so either I end up looking like I'm wearing my granddad's clothes, or and I said, well, I've got this idea, but I've never been able to get it on paper. And just fortunately, one of her best friends is a fashion designer in Australia.
Oh wow.
And she's and she was like, leave it with me, let's see what we can do. And I went over to Angie's house, and we had a chat with Flick, got on Zoom, and well, it wasn't Zoom then, it was Skype. And and it sort of went from there. So I then was able to have the design as I wanted it on paper to go to a lawyer. And then we managed to get it registered, because nobody had ever done it, and at that time. So that's why we were able to register the design for the UK and Europe.
So tell us what makes your coverall different to them all, because I don't think you've mentioned that.
No. So basically, it is a zip.
Okay.
It's a waist zip. So what I did is I took, my design has taken a normal all-in-one, and it split it in the middle. And you can then, undo the waist zip, which means you can go and have a wee, or you can wear the trousers on their own, or you can wear the jacket on their own. But it just means that you don't have to struggle to get out of them anymore, because you can pull the zips. It's a two-way zip on the waist, so you can pull the zip back slightly on each side, so which then frees up the shoulders, or you can just detach the zip completely, and then it's just like wearing a normal pair of over trousers.
And you started off with the classics, didn't you?
Yes, they were the ones. They're the sort of almost bells and whistles of a normal coverall version, because I thought, if I'm going to do it, let's do what I would ideally want in a perfect world.
Yeah.
So we did it. We added it. They've got lots of pockets, and we added ballistic nylon waterproof patches to the knees, which not only means that you can't get stabbed by things when you're kneeling down on rocky ground or anything, but also you don't get inside of animal onto your clothes underneath.
I suppose your knee is where you're in most contact with the ground.
Yeah, and I'm I was thinking for when lambing and calving and gardening, you're always kneeling down and stuff, so keeping that. So that was those, and we launched with those in December 2018 at the Equine Fair in Exeter.
Oh wow, it hasn't been very long really, has it?
No, we're just coming up to our 3rd anniversary.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
So these, when you initially promoted them, was it more towards the agricultural sector?
Yeah, we've sort of stuck with the agricultural and equestrian side for us, because that's sort of the area. I mean, not that I have much expertise in any of it, but they were the sort of areas that I knew more about, because when it came to trialing them with, I had girls from with horses do it for me. I had dairy farmers, sheep farmers, they all put them through their paces for me, so we knew what they were working with. And I'd love to be able to expand into different industries, because we get quite a few messages from women in the petrochem world, engineers, one's for electrostatic and all manner of, you know, amazing jobs within STEM. But we're just not big enough to do that at the minute. But because it is a unique concept, and you know, and once people get the idea of it, they're like, actually, you know, that really works.
Yeah.
And they can see the difference it can make. But also I wanted to still maintain something that looked feminine.
Yes.
You know, because just because it's workwear and because it's designed to do dirty jobs doesn't mean that you have to look like, you know, you're wearing a bin bag.
No.
And you should still be able to hold your head up proudly and say, you know what, I'm doing a better job than most guys I know, and we're just as good, and we deserve to be able to hold our head up high and look as good doing it.
Yeah. No, I love that. But the classics, they're awesome for lots of things.
Yep.
Great for clipping if you're horsey, great for lambing, but they aren't waterproof, are they?
No, they're not. They are your standard all-in-one coverall, because they're not waterproof.
No, absolutely.
You know, the boiler suits you go and buy from the, you know, sort of feed merchants or online, you know, they're generally not waterproof.
No, but that led you to a second
yes.
creation for a slightly different purpose, didn't it? So talk about this one.
So that led us to the what we called the Dartmoor. We had a lot of equestrians, you know, lasses come up to us and say, are they waterproof? Can you ride in them? And at the time, the classics aren't, you know, they haven't been manufactured for riding in.
No.
Because you need to reinforce seams and everything else. I have got girls that do ride in them, and I've got para riders that have them and they wanted to ride in them. And it's a case of, well, if you do want to, then, you know, let me know and I can always supply extra material if they've got a local seamstress.
Okay, because the shape's slightly different. Yeah,
so if they want to be able to sort of reinforce, especially like the crotch seams, which is one of the pressure points with riding, they can do that, and I'm happy to provide the fabric to allow them to do that.
Well, that's really good to know.
So we decided that we ought to, you know, focus on, you know, thinking, well, we should bring out a waterproof or rain resistant, weatherproof, you know, one. And that's what led us to the Dartmoor. So I got in contact with Jem. People know her as Jem Eventing.
Jem's fab. Big shout out to Jem if you're listening. I'm sure you will be.
Yeah, huge shout out to Jem. I couldn't have done it without her. And I, you know, and I'd been to see our manufacturer up in Scotland, and I had a, you know, and we'd come up with the idea and we'd worked out the fabric, which I'll get onto in a moment. And I called Jem from Glasgow Airport, and I was like, Jem, I've got an idea for you. If I get this made up, can you put them through their paces and test them?
Yeah,
for me, and really put them through, you know, work them hard, make sure they do what we need them to do. And she was game, because she's brilliant. And
she is a star. And I saw some brilliant pictures, or reels or videos of her getting absolutely soaked in them.
Yeah.
Well, she wasn't. I mean, she was perfectly dry, but the outfit was getting soaked.
Yeah, I mean, the first time, the first sample I sent her, well, we swapped over, because she lives in Somerset, and we were taking the boys to Legoland for a trip in the summer. So I was like, right, okay, well, we'll meet sort of, you know, just up the road to you. And I gave her these the set to try, and she took them home, and her dad hosed her down in the garden as soon as she got home in them, you know, just to see how dry she was staying. I like to say she stayed perfectly dry. And so we tweaked the design for that. We put extra, you know, layers on the back side. There's poppers on the legs. It's got, you know, sort of hidden cuffs, hidden hood, you know, all things to make them more for an equestrian.
Yeah.
And then it was deciding on the fabric.
Now, I think this is really interesting because before you use this particular fabric, I had never heard of it, but it's clever, isn't it? And it's got lots of kind of really cool credentials beyond being
Yes.
Is
yeah,
it weatherproof? Is that what you?
They class it as weatherproof because it's all to do with how long you can keep a strand of fabric in water and how deep it goes before the water penetrates and everything else. And since I started Sweet Donkeys, I've always tried to produce things as I'm not a great fan of buzzwords, but I've always tried to sort of think of it, sort of trying to do it as sustainably, and also putting the least impact on the environment as possible, and especially within the clothing industry. Not that I know a lot about it, but it was a case of we manufacture our coveralls to last.
Yeah.
Because I don't like spending out and having things that don't work, or take a lot of maintenance, or in fact I just don't like things with a lot of plastic in. I'm not a huge advocate of my day-to-day life. I try and do what I can to make the least impact. And we had not come across Ventile. I know that people in the forces had, because the army used it for a long time, and I think they still do, and some of the special forces around the world still use Ventile in their outdoor gear. I didn't want like your laminated fabrics, because they don't breathe, and there is nothing more uncomfortable than actually having to wear less clothes underneath, really, because you're getting sweaty, because you can't when you've got a waterproof coat on, you get wetter on the inside through sweat than you do.
Yeah, the boys have got some just kids overalls that are just very plasticky, that just keep them like for when they're throwing themselves in puddles. But if they start running around, you take them off them and you're like, oh, it's wet in all the places. Oh
yeah. But that's not but that's just me on my own personal wanting to do with my business. Everybody else sort of uses what fabrics they want. And we came across Ventile because the guys who manufacture us also manufacture for a few outdoor gear companies, and one of them uses Ventile because he's had a jacket for 25 years and it still works every year when he's out stalking, which ticked all the boxes for us. It's it's 100% cotton, which doesn't make sense with it being weatherproof. It was developed in the Second World War to keep fighter pilots alive or give them a longer chance of survival if they came down in the Atlantic. And it did increase that by 80%. They said 80% more chance of survival.
Crikey.
If they were to come down in it. It's lightweight because it is cotton. It's breathable because it's cotton. But because of the way it's woven, as soon as the water hits it, it makes a barrier. So there's no need for taped seams. So there's no plastic, there's no rubber or plastic on the seams to make them waterproof, because the fabric does it for itself.
Oh, wow.
And it's a case of for waterproof, I don't, most people riding horses are not going to be, living out in the North Sea with it raining. So you don't need the wet weather gear that they need for that. These are designed for equestrians. I mean, I've worked with horses for years in all weathers, so you know how miserable it can
it's
be.
horrible when you get wet, isn't it, and cold in the morning and you're there all day.
Definitely. And I mean, these ones, all you do is the fabric, you literally hang it, let it air dry, and they go back to normal. You just have to get the dirt off of them, because the dirt can affect how the fabric works. And every whipping trip, when you feel it needs it, just chuck it in a wash with some Tech wax. We recommend Tech wash and cotton proof, and it's good to go again. Ventile themselves are a slow fashion advocate, so they only produce certain amounts, and it's taken from the top 2%, I think, of the cotton crop.
Okay.
Quality. There's only certain ones they use. And I think because people are becoming more conscious, Ventile themselves is almost taking a more of a resurgence, which is good, because they've just released a collaboration with Dr. Martens.
Oh wow.
They've just made a, Through Dark use them. Hill Trek, I think, are another big ones that use them. So it's used in a lot of outdoor hard wearing, ways, but it just fits the bill for the environmental side for us. And it works. And we launched those at Burghley in 2019, and they've gone really well. And and if you do get to a point where it needs a bit of reproofing, then it's a case of right, just shove it in the wash and job done, and it'll work again. And if you look after them, it will last for years. And that's what I wanted, because I don't want to be part of the throwaway clothing society that we are. So they aren't cheap. The fabric itself is premium, and but if it's going to last, then and it's all relative, isn't it? When you think of what you pay, especially in the equestrian world, what you pay to keep your horse comfortable, and what everybody pays to look out for their horses, well, what price do you put on yourself being comfortable as well?
But I do think as well, you've got to look at the cost per wear on these things.
Yeah.
So it must be quite tricky, because we've all seen, you can go to, I talked about the boys' overalls. They were not much money, but I bought them because they will last them maybe a year, if I'm lucky, because they will get far too big for them, and I will pass them on happily to someone else. But if I find something for me, I actually find the whole process trying to find the right thing an absolute pain in the neck. So I would be happier to pay more money thinking I've got this and now I'm going to keep it for years and years. So how I buy footwear and things like that. Because even if it's, because the Ventile ones, they are how much?
They retail at 350. But if you look on it as, if you look after them, they should last longer. But say you work on them, that they'll last you 10 years.
It's £35 a year.
£35 a year. What do you normally pay out in a year on clothing?
Or just cheap overalls? It would actually be much more than that for a pair of cheap overalls without the middle zip that were fine, that were adequate, that would keep you dry, but wouldn't necessarily tick any of the other boxes.
No, and will generally end up getting chucked, put in the corner somewhere, because actually you find that you have to, you are getting wet, because unless you go, all fabrics, unless it's, from what I believe, unless it's, like your layered, your laminated fabrics that have got their waterproof, the rubber like membrane, all need treating. It's only the treatment that keeps the water off.
I get you.
And over time that breaks down. The more they're used, the more it's it goes. We're fortunate that we've got Imogen Murray, who is our sponsored rider, and she had one of our first sets, and hers, I don't think she's even washed hers in the 2 years she's had them. And she's done quad biking, and I've got pictures of her covered in mud, and you can just about see the trousers, what would be the trousers peeking out, and she uses them all the time, because they won't use stuff unless they like it, which is great, which is what we need as a company. I need people that have them and want to use them.
Do you find that people of late, thinking about obviously the coronavirus pandemic that's ongoing, and becoming more aware of the environment, aware of the impact that we all are having, there's obviously various different sustainability, global warming pushes at the moment, which are really important. Do you think people are becoming more aware of it and are moving away more from the fast fashion angle towards things that are going to last them?
I think there is a shift. I think what is becoming more apparent, all of our coveralls are made in the UK, and that's something that I wanted to do from the very beginning. I wanted to be able to say, you know what, we make in Britain. And you know, and that's each, you know, every brand's decision to what they do. But for me, we could make in small quantities, because what's the point of having, you know, masses of stock sat around? And then also, I know where they're made, I know who's made them. I could give you, you know, I could get the name of the woman that's made each set.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if there's a problem, I mean, I got asked the other day, do I ever have seconds that I can sell, sort of, you know, cheaper? And it's like, well, actually, no, I don't have seconds, because if I get any that come and there's any problem whatsoever, I just ship them back up to Glasgow, well, just outside Glasgow, and they fix them for me.
Yeah.
So, you know, unlike if, you know, if I had, you know, I've come across others where, you know, they've had shipments come in from abroad and they're not quite right, and you're suddenly stuck.
Yeah.
And then that becomes a big issue, not only for the business, but also for the environment, because if you can't sell them, what do you do with them? That's when they end up in landfill,
Which isn't good for the bottom line of any business either.
No, of course it's not. You know, it's not good all round. That's why the costs are higher. At the end of the day, you're paying for quality.
Yeah.
And you're paying for the conditions of the workers, which is great, and that's how it should be. But I think there has been, I think there has been a shift. I think people are beginning to sort of open up to more ideas, and also the cost of everything. I think for a long time we've gotten used to the cost of cheap clothing.
Yeah.
Which lasts, you know, I mean, I've been as guilty of it as anybody else, especially socks.
Yeah.
Socks are the bane of my life.
Yeah.
You know, so I'd find that, you know, come September, before they all started school, I would go and I would, you know, there's a certain high street store that sells very cheaply, and I'd go and buy a mass of socks.
Yeah.
You know, rather than going to a more expensive independent. So, you know, we're all guilty of it, and I hold my hands up to that. But I think there is a change, and I think people are starting to see the value of the not only understanding the cost, the higher cost, but actually why it's a higher cost and what goes into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, you know, as time goes on, and I think the pandemic has shown that, and, you know, because I mean, it was lovely. For me, one of the bonuses was that, you know, you don't see that, you know, it was so quiet during the lockdowns.
Yeah.
It was amazing how, you know, you got used to not seeing, you know, vapor trails in the sky and things like that, you know, and everything was just, you know, so you know, and clean, and everything everywhere was cleaner. You know, you'd go shopping and there wouldn't be rubbish everywhere.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be plastics lying around everywhere. You know, and then as soon as everything started waking up, you were then back to, you know, sort of face masks on the ground and things like that, which I thought was very unfortunate. But I think it triggered something for a lot of people to try and look at what they be a bit more conscious. And that's the thing. And it is the age old adage, isn't it? Is it you know, you get what you pay for. And if you want to say, actually, you know what, I want to be able to wear this for the next 10 years, and I'm not going to feel that I'm inflicting on, you know, the environment any more than I need to, and you know, then that's great. And the more people that are waking up to that, and I think a lot of brands are pushing, you know, obviously organic has been around for a long time, but there's a lot more now of the recycled fabrics.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Which is fantastic. I mean, Ventile, I know they've just brought out a recycled cotton.
Oh wow.
Which is phenomenal. But again, you know, that increased the price again, and until people have come round to that, almost that way of, you know, you want to do better, so you've got to pay for that.
Yeah.
And it's sort of almost the you know, as people, you know, the education around the fashion industry.
Yeah.
increases, and that, you know, and that's across the board, you know, not just within sort of equestrian and agricultural.
No, absolutely.
You know, and that's the thing. I mean, you know, it's a very it's a very emotive subject, and it's a very touchy subject because everybody has their own opinions on it and how they start and what makes them choose what they use.
Yeah, completely.
You know, and that's each their own. We've chosen the fabrics that we've chosen. It's like the classic, they are a poly cotton rather than just a cotton, but you can chuck them in the wash at 60 degrees and you can tumble dry them.
Yeah.
You know, because for a busy lifestyle, that works.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, we've, as I said, we're coming up for our third launch, and I tend not to get returning customers because they keep going.
Yeah, you get messages from people, don't you, and pictures of them wearing them years and years on.
Yeah, and that's and to me that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
You know, I could probably sell a lot more, you know, cheap ones to the same person because they've only broken down, you know, they've broken down within months. But what's the point of that? I don't like buying like that. I don't like companies that do that. So I don't want to have a company that does that.
No, that makes sense. It is interesting seeing that shift, and
it's great to be part of it. Yeah. And it's really good to be, you know, sort of be able to say, you know what, we are part of this and we are doing our bit towards it.
Yeah, definitely.
Which makes a real difference.
Now, another string to your bow is fairly recently you've started up a second Instagram account I spotted as well. Yeah.
That has so getting back to the Three Donkeys brand, because it's funny, what we found is that people love donkeys. There's something about a donkey.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I think it must be. There's something about a donkey, and you know, once people understood what we were, and you know, and that the Three Donkeys as a brand and a company, what we do, that was fine. Because, you know, but I was finding that, you know, people would say, you know, I don't really need coveralls, but I really like your logo because we love a donkey, you know. Or I'll get messages from America and it's like, I've got 3 donkeys, you know, and everything, which is really funny. The amount of people that are like us that have 3 donkeys is amazing.
Maybe 3 is the magic number when it comes to donkeys.
Yeah, I think it must be.
Who even knew that, right?
So that's how we, you know, that's sort of why we sort of launched the apparel range with the hoodies and t-shirts, things like that, because, you know, we sell a lot with because of the donkey factor.
Yeah.
So building the brand. But one of the things that you find as a small business is when you bring out things, you have to invest so much in sizing and the garments and the setup fees and everything else. So I have been looking and learning about being able to bring some of that in-house.
Yeah.
Like the printing on the clothing,
yeah,
etc. So, and that's where the sort of Three Donkeys designs area came from, because it's another addition to our bow.
Yeah.
And also it will allow me to personalize the coveralls, the classics.
Yes, I love that.
Which will be another, because at the moment I can do that, but I use Catherine over at Team Equestrian Shop, who, big shout out to her because she's been amazing.
Absolutely, Catherine is.
And you know, another small business which is phenomenal. So, you know, I've been sending people to her to have them done, and then they get shipped. And it was a case of, actually, if I could do it in-house, it saves a lot of hassle for everybody, and I've got a little bit more control. It's sort of just bringing more control into my business.
Yeah.
And it's a learning curve. So, and you know, and it just allows me a bit more freedom to be able to launch new products quicker, and see what likes, you know, because you might bring something out and everybody at the beginning says, yeah, that's really good, but then it's, you know, it's actually they don't really like it, or they're not that keen on it, and then you're suddenly stuck with a load of stock.
Yeah.
that people don't want. Whereas this way I can, sort of test the market, and find out from people. If you say, well, would you prefer baby pink to, bright orange, they can turn around and say, well, yeah, okay, we really like that. We really like baby pink. Okay,
Yeah.
well, we'll that's what we'll look at doing next. So it just gives a bit more freedom, and without having lots of stock lying around, and and it allows me to invest more in development of new coveralls, but while still building the brand.
No, I love that. That's really exciting. What have you got have you got any plans for either of the brands that you can talk to us about and share a bit about?
Well, there's stuff going on for both of them, really. So the design side, they should be, I've just had all the product photos done, which is amazing. So we are releasing some 3 Donkeys mugs.
Awesome.
So there's going to be mugs. We've got new hoodie coming out for Christmas, which is a nice red sparkly one. But I wanted, it was a case of wanted something that was okay to wear out and about, but actually you could still wear after Christmas.
Yeah, that can be the thing, isn't it? The Christmas jumper when it's so Christmassy.
Yeah, so it's a case of, have something that, it's got, red sparkles, which is great for Christmas, because I mean, who doesn't love a bit of sparkle?
You're right.
But at the same time, it wouldn't look out of place if you pop it on a cool evening in the middle of August.
Yeah.
So we've got that coming on, and we've also got, I'm going to be releasing very shortly some water bottles with our amazing Doris the donkey. I don't know, I put a thing across our stories the other week. I had a friend do the most amazing caricature donkey in her purple coveralls,
and she looks fab. She does.
And we did a thing, and one of the names that came out really thin was Doris.
I didn't say Doris, I said really good names that I
know.
Yeah,
sorry.
All right. They weren't D's. I think I just went for it with like Magdalena and
I can't think what else. I can't think what your other one was.
I took it quite seriously as usual.
Yeah, which is great, but I thought Doris just made me laugh.
Yeah, and the 2 D's, I do like alliteration.
So there's that going on. And then on the 3 Donkeys coverall side, we've had in development our new one since early this year, and we've had the product photos done now, which is great, but we've been caught up in the whole global delays of components.
Yes. Yeah.
So whereas we were hoping to have launched in September, we haven't got a date, a distinctive date for that yet. It's looking more likely now to be towards the beginning of next year, unfortunately, but they'll still be fantastic when they arrive.
Too right. No, absolutely. And as you say, so many people are having issues with the delays at the moment. You're not alone there, definitely not.
And I mean, this is the thing, the situation that we've got at the moment. I think you've just got to roll with it. We've all learned over the last sort of 2 years to just keep adapting, and that's all you can do. It's out of our control, so let's not worry about the things we've got no control over.
No, definitely.
I can't force a container to come in any quicker with a zip end than through saying, oh, I really need it, and my coveralls are really suffering because of it. What's that going to do? They're going to go, yeah, all right, love, you get in line with everybody else. So you've just got to roll with it and go along and say, well, okay, we'll launch at a different time. It's fine.
I do love your attitude to things like this. But I think it's absolutely spot on. It's just, I think sometimes, I mean, I know I'm guilty. You get so caught up in there, but it needs to be now. But
absolutely. Because I mean, so much time. I mean, we've got so much time and money invested in it. Because development is not an easy. I mean, it seems easy. I mean, when I when I started, I always thought the hardest thing was going to be selling the things, but actually no, the hardest thing is getting the things developed.
Yeah.
You know, and getting it right. I mean,
Yeah.
even with these ones, you know, I can have 4 or 5 different samples that we'll tweak and we'll change, and we'll get it before we get it absolutely how we want it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what takes the time. And if it's taking longer, well, yeah, so be it, it's taking longer. But so the new ones, I imagine, will be, you know, early next year.
That's something to look forward to.
You know, but then there's always that blip after Christmas, so you know,
Yeah,
you know, always sort of feels a bit down.
So thinking about your whole business journey so far, has there been like a standout low? Don't worry, we are going to go high afterwards. I do always say this to people, because I think that, again, lots of people look at all these amazing businesses online, yourself included, and think, oh gosh, it's just easy, isn't it? And it's just so not easy. It can be amazing and brilliant, but easy?
Yeah, no, it's not easy. I mean, it's, you know, it's very, I mean, I don't come from a business background at all. I mean, you know, before I started this, other than sort of, you know, doing a bit with the animals, you know, I was a mum for 18 years, really. You know, so, and before that I worked with horses mostly and in feed shops and things. So, you know, I'm not from a business thing. So, you know, there's a lot of self-doubt, second guessing yourself. And, you know, I mean, I didn't even know when I started what imposter syndrome was. You know, I'd never even heard of it. But, you know, by golly, you know, it's a real thing, and it's surprising how it hits you. You know, and I've been very fortunate, because I've had a lot of positivity from a lot of people. There has been negativity from people, which is unfortunate, but you know what, that's life, it happens, and you've just got to deal with that. There is jealousy, which again is unfortunate, but you know, I'm in my lane, they're in their lane. Everything's different, everybody's journey is different, everybody's businesses are different, everybody's lives are different. And you just have to, you know, control the things you can control, and try and find a positive. I mean, there have been, you know, lows, like for example, not getting the coveralls out when we want them to. When you've built yourself up, you know, your mind has been whirring for so long, thinking, how am I going to do this, how am I going to try and launch, which for me is always really difficult, because I haven't actually got a clue what I'm doing, so I tend to just wing mostly and hope. You know, so you've got that whole, you know, and the, oh, have we got this right, have we got that right, da, 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 da. And then it's like, oh, we're not going to be able to do that now, we got to wait. So, you know, you get those lows, and it is quite hard to just keep picking yourself up from them. You know, but you have to, because ultimately it's, you know, I'm not in this for the short haul. It's never been a short, quick business. It's always been a, you know, I hope to still be around, you know, when I'm the crazy cat lady.
Nothing wrong with that.
No. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with being the crazy cat lady. At the moment, I'm the crazy donkey lady. So, you know, I'm just going to move on to smaller as I get older, I think.
I like that. What's been like your standout high? Because again, I know you've had loads of highs along the journey. What's been your standout high? Or you can have a couple if you like.
Can I have a couple? So I suppose can I have 3?
Why go for it? Why not?
Can I go for 3? Because, you know, we've got 3 donkeys, so why not go for 3? So the first one has to be being invited to Burghley horse trials. That was huge. That was absolutely huge. And, you know, when we got there, I mean, bearing in mind that was in the September, so we hadn't even been going a year when we attended in 2019. And, you know, we had the most amazing pitch. We're right opposite Dujardin. We were just down the road from Jules and Land Rover. We had food there, we had drink there. It was absolutely amazing. And that was great. You know, that was like the other one, the first sort of huge high. Then then the second one had to be, meeting Charlotte Dujardin.
I'm feeling really smug here because these were the two I thought you were going to mention.
Yeah. So and she's been amazing, and her team have been absolutely amazing and been so supportive. And we met her at Your Horse Live 2019 when we were there, and she's got in possession of a set of our Dartmoor coveralls, which is amazing. And we've been able to work with her a little bit since then. And then I suppose that oh my God, there's so many, Ria. You really put me.
I've got two in my head, and I don't know which one you're going to go for.
And then I suppose I've got to do it, and that's being put up for the award with Great British Entrepreneurs for the second year running.
Yes. I felt I had that one all working with ThisEsme, and I know that you love that as well.
Esme, yeah. But you've done it for me. So you've put 4 in for me.
3 and an extra. No, because I know I've had the absolute pleasure of working with Amanda, and I know how much you love working with Esme. I know how much the award being up for the award means to you as well. So can you tell us a little bit about that before I let you go and live your life today?
So I mean, basically it's the Great British Entrepreneur Awards. We are in, God, how awful, I can't remember what category it is now, but for the Southwest.
You're in a good category.
I'm in a really good category, and I'm up against some amazing small brands, which is amazing. And I don't expect to win, but you know what, to me, being chosen as a finalist is winning.
To be honest, yes, I completely agree. I think you're awesome. I'm just giving myself a small plug here and I'm going to come back to you. On Wednesday, I was told I was one of the finalists for the top 50. Well, I am one of the top 50 advisors in the UK for Enterprise Nation and the top 5 in PR. And I would flipping love to win. But it really is like I've already won. Although if you're listening, please vote, watch out for the link.
Definitely.
But it is lovely just to get that recognition, which I guess is what you're feeling too.
Absolutely. And the other bonus of it is I get a trip to London out of it.
That's a win. I mean, I'm quite scared of cities.
They've got the awards ceremony later this month. So we're heading on down there for a thoroughly good evening. And also what's really good is it's given me the opportunity to go and see the girls at Hyde Park Stables.
She's going to be amazing.
We also work alongside with. And so I've got a bit of a bucket list thing going on there.
That's amazing.
But more will come about that later in the month. But as you said, Esme, I mean, she's just amazing. I mean, there's nothing I can say. She's such a lovely person, and her dad is phenomenal as well. And they've helped us so much and supported us so much, and that's the thing. I mean, I have been so lucky with the amount of support we've had from so many people. And not everything has to have a cost. You can just support people, and and that's what we're trying, as because we've got some hopefully exciting things in the pipelines with very small brands. Very exciting.
Watch this space, listeners, watch this space.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't wait. I've got my part of it arrived last week.
Oh God, well, that's so exciting.
So I've got my part. I've just got to work out what I just need to. We just got to work out the details of what to go on it, and then waiting for some components from some other amazing little brands which fit with us perfectly. Actually, we're all women that are absolutely bossing what we're trying to do.
100%. I'm so excited about that. That's a watch this space.
It's definitely a watch this space.
Can you tell us all the places where we can find you online and on social media?
Okay, so online it's www.3donkeys.co.uk. That's our website. We are also over on Facebook as 3 Donkeys Clothing, Instagram as 3 Donkeys Clothing, and Twitter.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been so great to chat. And well, I'll see you soon.
Yes.